Jonathan, thank you for your time. Good morning to you. Asking quite a pertinent question. Do we have the answer to that as to why those salaries in private sector seem to be decreasing as compared to their public sector counterparts?
Good morning to you and your viewers. I raised the article in the debate really because I think it needs to be debated. On top of that, you have a public sector increase by the collective agreement that government doesn't want to implement that's going to cost 37 billion rand. Now, of course, there was a collective agreement over multi-years, and that agreement has been agreed to. But in the context of COVID, there needs to be a debate, and that's why government's saying we can't afford this extra 37 billion rand. Now, for private sector employees, what's happened over COVID for many, many employees is they've implemented no work, no pay. And effectively, a lot of managers and supervisors and senior executives have taken a pay cut. And on top of that, the private sector is facing the wrath of the retrenchments. And the question I'm asking, surely we need to share the load. Surely if people are not able to work in terms of the Disaster Management Act, it should be no work, no pay. And the President has raised this issue himself around long suspensions in the public service, the non-resolution, quick resolution of disciplinary inquiries for people who are seriously charged. And I think we need to have that debate because it's big numbers. 38 billion is the increase. No work, no pay could have saved those kind of amounts, 50 billion, and we need that to rebuild the economy.
And some of the stats that you share in your article are quite staggering. I mean, according to the latest employment stats, one which being that the survey indicates that workers are actually taking home 1,000 rands less than they were in the previous quarter, that is, which was largely, unaffected by the coronavirus.
Correct. And I think that if you then measure that against public sector employees who got paid largely during the COVID and still are getting paid, even where some of the departments are closed down, I think, to my mind, that seems to be unfair because it's the private sector that's bearing the brunt. Again, as public sector employees now, the guarantee virtually that you're not going to be retrenched during this bigger period is also good for those particular sector employees, but there needs to be some sharing of the load. That's the debate I'd like to have in the civil society in South Africa.
Was the social grant, the social relief grant, the TERS UIF beneficial to some of the employees in private sector at all?
I want to commend the social partners. Effectively, remember, the trade unions keep on saying, and they're 100% correct, that's workers' money. So, the 50 billion that's nearly been paid out in terms of UIF code, COVID TERS grant has been remarkable. Actually, if you look at it for me, it's the biggest part of the relief plan, and it's coming from workers. Hence, we as employers and as Labour argue that money should be paid out to workers and as efficiently as possible. And now that's starting to happen. But 50 billion rand has been pumped into wages and salaries in the economy during COVID, which has been a huge relief. And that, to my mind, is biggest part of the relief package. And the debate, of course, is saying, well, how come when certain departments were closed down, certain departments are not delivering, that there's no work, no pay? And again, the debate is around the increase. If we are going to move South Africa forward in an economic recovery plan, there we all need to chip in a bit. I know it's contentious, but it's the right debate that needs to be had.
Well, we're talking about employees now, but also business owners and, company executives are bearing the brunt here. How have they also been impacted?
Yes, well, a lot of executives, managers, even middle managers. I'm staying at a hotel in Plettenberg Bay at the moment, and effectively their managers are still affected by a reduction in their salary during this period because the hotels are suffering and are limited in respect to conferences, etc. So there are managers still taking the brunt of, number one, no work, no pay during the complete shutdown or partial shutdown, and now still taking a reduction in their salaries. I'm saying that should be debated in the public sector, in parastatals, and they should be sharing this load, and that money should come back into the economy for economic growth and employment.
A much important conversation and debate. Thank you so much for highlighting that. Jonathan Goldberg, that's Labour lawyer from Global Business Solutions.